Okay, Rabbi, it is time for Is This Kosher? Are you
Oh
ready?
boy.
Okay, gelatin.
Gelatin is kosher if it comes from a kosher animal. So if it comes from pigs, which a lot of gelatin does, then no. But if it comes from something else, then it's kosher. Personally, I try to avoid all gelatin because I think the idea of eating something that comes from animals' hooves is really gross. But it is kosher.
Toothpaste.
Toothpaste, the famous, famous case, because because toothpaste is not a food and you don't eat it. So how could toothpaste be not kosher? And yet people sometimes put a kosher symbol on toothpaste. It does not really need it because it's not a food. And there was a famous one about having to do with Passover. On Passover, there's a rule that for something to be chametz, for something to be bready that you don't eat on Passover, it has to be something that a dog would eat. And so a man called this very famous Jewish authority, a rabbi, and said, "Rabbi, do I have to worry about whether my toothpaste is kosher?" And the rabbi said, "No, you don't. If it's the standard is if a dog would eat it, and a dog wouldn't eat toothpaste, so don't worry about it." And then he calls back the next day and says, "Rabbi, my dog ate my toothpaste. What do you say now?" And the man said, "Well, who do you want to be your rabbi, me or your dog?"
That's hilarious. Okay, what about alligator meat?
Alligators are not kosher because the land animals have to have, hooves um, and chew their cud, so it doesn't qualify there. And if you wanted to call it a fish, then it would have to have scales and fins, and it doesn't. So amphibians in general are not kosher.
Okay, what about non-kosher salt?
Non-kosher salt. Yes. Right. I think maybe I don't remember if we talked about this before that kosher salt is for koshering meat. It's for making meat kosher, leaching out the blood. So it's not the salt itself; it's what it's used for. Even though that salt is marked kosher. So in general, salt is I don't know if you know that, is a mineral. So it really hard to see how it's not kosher. And the only situation you can imagine is that on Passover there are some additives that are put in salt that come from things that are like grains. And so some people say you have to have kosher marked salt for Passover. But in general, salt is salt. Just eat it. It's good.
Okay, and last but not least, quail.
Quail. Quail. Quail are birds, as you know, and they are mentioned in the Torah. And the standard for birds, strangely, is that basically the birds that are mentioned in the Torah are kosher. And in the Torah, it says certain birds are not kosher,
Mhm.
but and it's assumed all other ones must be. But the tradition is only those ones that we have a tradition of eating are really kosher. So, it was a problem, for example, for the turkey when people came to America. Is
Mhm.
turkey kosher? Some people said no, we don't have any tradition of eating it. Other people said, well, it's like a chicken. It's a really big chicken, so fine, we should eat it. Quail are actually mentioned in the Torah because the Israelites, when they're in the desert and they don't have anything to eat, God says, "I'm going to bring quail, and they'll fall, and you'll eat them until you're sick of it." So quail are definitely kosher.
Okay.